Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. Kind of a short quick video, but we're going to review a lens today. And it's actually become one of my favorite vacation lenses, indoor shooting lenses, a little bit of portrait lenses, you know, like a little bit of landscape. Honestly, it's a really nice all-around lens. And I have it right here in my pocket, that's how small it is. We have the new-ish, in the past year, the Nikon 40 f2. It is a full frame lens. It's only about 2 inches tall. It's real tiny. And marked right on the lens so you don't forget, it has a minimum focus distance of 0.96 feet. So like we'll say 11.5 inches. And it obviously focuses to infinite. We'll do a quick walk around on this lens. It's really not much to it. It is an entry lens. You can get it new from Nikon or a Nikon vendor for about $250 to $300. Depending on what kind of sales going on. You might even be able to find them used, but still a pretty new lens and probably not much used out there in the market. Now it is a 1:2 reproduction ratio, so it's definitely not a macro lens, but you can get pretty close to some things and get nice shots of them. And you can see the 9-bladed aperture, maybe if I put it in front of me. You can see the 9 blades inside there, and tiny little 52mm lens cap. Little pinch. Then on the back side, your standard Z cap, but it's a little dusty. It is a plastic lens mount. There's really not much to it. You got your pins and a plastic mount. It does kind of look cheap, but since me using it over the past couple months, I haven't had any problems with it. And a little surprise that I did not know about whenever I first bought this lens is that it is a weather sealed lens. Now I've used this at the beach, I've taken this for trips on airplanes. Yeah, it's a pretty compact lens, really not much to it. Honestly, if anyone was looking for an entry lens to complement their new Z30 or like a Z50, since this is a full frame lens, it'll turn into like a 60mm lens on a crop body. Or if you just want it for a fun vacation lens, a portrait lens for your kids, or just a really good video lens, I would highly recommend this. Now, if you buy a Z body secondhand and it doesn't come with a lens and you want something cheap, I would say this is probably your first go-to, because you could probably buy this new for about $250 to $300 as I mentioned. And I'll have some links in the description from Amazon if you want to support the channel, buy through there. Used prices, I'm sure, is a lot less than that. And even the new used price for what I'm filming on right now, it's the Z24 to 70 f4S lens. Those used are about $400 or $500, which is a great lens. One thing you got to keep in mind though, it is an f2 lens, so if you're shooting on an entry body, you might have to switch to electronic shutter so that you can actually get a nice well-exposed shot in daylight. Because f2 wide open in daylight is going to need a fast shutter for that. I mean, it's kind of like why film cameras would go up to 1/8000th of a second, so you could shoot fast lenses on low ISO or ASA film. The only really con I can think about for this lens, for what it is, for how much it costs, is you know, when you shoot it wide open and you're close to your subject, you're going to have a lot of purple fringing on the edges of your subject, especially on the edges of the frame, and you might lose a little bit of sharpness if something's like at minimum focus distance. So like that's just something to think about, but in reality, for the price you're paying for this, it undercuts a lot of the other competitions and other mounts and makes. So like even like Sony has a kind of a close version of this, Tamron's got a version of this, Fuji's got a version of this, but they're all a lot more expensive, and honestly this thing really hangs in there with the best of them. So if this is going to be one of your first lenses you purchase, I would highly recommend you get this with a camera that doesn't have a lens on it, since this is a cheap little additive and you'll probably keep this forever. And currently, at the time of the filming this in October 2022, you can add this onto your NPS for priority delivery, which is kind of odd since it's such a cheap non-S lens, but it's an option on there if you want to get it right away if you can't find it in your area and you're looking for it. But you should be able to find it, although, because I mean, like, these are so cheap So easy to make. I'm sure they're just cranking them out at the factory. And for where it's made, speaking of factories, this one was made in Thailand. And a lot of Nikon's assembly is going over towards Thailand in that general area and leaving Japan. Not that it matters to me, I don't really care where it's made. And for me, I like to use filters on this for like long exposure for like waterfalls or like landscapes. The only negative is I do not have a 52mm filter to put on this. So I have to put a ton of stacked rings on this, and I do have a 95mm UV 18 stop ND filter, mostly so I can shoot pictures of the sun or astrophotography, solar photography, but it greatly doubles as a secondary filter for long exposure landscape. So as you can see, really not much to it. It does flare a little bit. It's not going to be super sharp, wide open all the time, but it focuses really well. It's got good silent focusing. It does have a stepper motor in it, so even for video, super silent for that. Works great. So yeah, if this was a helpful video for you, I know it really wasn't much to go on about this. Wasn't as in-depth as, say, my 150-600 video or maybe my Sigma 105EX macro video, but really, there's like 3 things on this lens. It's very simple, very cheap, but it gets the job done, and it's definitely nice to have a 40 f2 lens or just a fast aperture lens for like indoor family portraits and vacations. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below what you think about the lens if you've had it and tried it out, or if you own it already. And then until next time, happy shooting out there. Fall weather's coming in the northern hemisphere. I want to see some nice leaf landscape photos with some good color. I'll see you.